The Horizon series is one of my personal favorites, and I've always found the Lego games to be wonderfully silly, so I couldn't wait to pick up Lego Horizon Adventures once it was announced. I've been having a blast playing it, and it's an excellent game in many ways. But there's been something a little off about the whole experience. I couldn't quite place why until I started thinking more deeply about the concept of transmedia storytelling. If you're familiar with nerd culture, you'll immediately understand what transmedia storytelling is. It's when you take the same story and reimagine it in different mediums. The classic example is the DC comic universe. We see this universe reimagined in different formats, from comic books and movies to visual art and video games. The concept of transmedia storytelling was formulated by the scholar Henry Jenkins, who formally defines it as a process where integral elements of a fiction get dispersed systematically across multiple delivery channels for the purpose of creating a unified and coordinated entertainment experience. Ideally, each medium makes its own unique contribution to the unfolding of the story. So, for example, in the Matrix franchise, key bits of information are conveyed through 3 live-action films, a series of animated shorts, 2 collections of comic book stories, and several video games. There is no one single source or what? What does this mean? Oh, wait. An original or the earliest version of a text to which later versions can be compared. Okay. There is no one single source or urtext where one can turn to gain all of the information needed to comprehend the Matrix universe. In my mind, transmedia storytelling usually occurs in 3 ways. First, it can focus on reimagining the same characters or archetypes but in different settings, like turning Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew into 10 Things I Hate About You, or making yet another story featuring the Greek pantheon. Second, transmedia storytelling can use a specific plot or plot points over and over, like Uncle Ben dying in Spider-Man, or this Bollywood retelling of Pride and Prejudice. Finally, the third, and I'd wager the most common form of transmedia storytelling nowadays, is when the story features new plots and characters, but takes place within a larger shared universe. The most heinous example of this is, of course, the soulless Marvel slop being churned out by the evil Mouse Corporation. Another good example is the Shadow of Mordor video game series. It takes place within Middle-earth, the setting of the Lord of the Rings books and movies, but the game has an entirely new plot and protagonist. Of course, all 3 forms of transmedia storytelling, characters, plot, and world, can and often do occur together. The core difference between transmedia storytelling and merely adapting a story is that each instance of transmedia storytelling adds on to the audience's understanding of the fiction's greater universe. Transmedia stories always tell us something new about a universe and the people who occupy it. They give us a new, deeper understanding of a fictional world. Because of this, Jenkins argues that transmedia storytelling isn't based on plot or character and only occurs with different stories that happen in the same universe. But I disagree with him. I think adaptations that keep the plot and characters but change the world can still give the audience a new perspective on the original fictional universe, and thus can still be qualified as transmedia stories. This is the case with a lot of fan fiction, which is also a great example of transmedia storytelling. Jenkins argues that this expansive nature of transmedia storytelling is part of its allure. This process of world building across media encourages an encyclopedic impulse in both readers and writers. We are drawn to master what can be known about a world which always expands beyond our grasp. This is a very different pleasure than we associate with the closure found in most classically constructed narratives, where we expect to leave the theater knowing everything that is required to make sense of a particular story. We like transmedia storytelling because it always promises us that there will be more. Transmedia storytelling gives us worlds that are built collaboratively across different mediums, and this makes them feel genuinely realistic because these universes are constantly evolving and changing, just like our real world. Transmedia stories offer us a melancholy kind of satisfaction because we know that there will always be more to explore. This stands in contrast to the fullness you feel when you finish a story that has a really good, satisfying ending, and you know that's all you're gonna get. I didn't know what type of transmedia storytelling to fully expect with LEGO Horizon Adventures. Of course, this isn't the first instance of transmedia storytelling in the Horizon universe. There are comic books and a virtual reality game, both set in the Horizon universe, and featuring some of the same characters, but with new plot lines. There's also a board game. But what's interesting about the transmedia storytelling of LEGO Horizon Adventures is that it's a video game retelling of another video game. It's not a book being reimagined as a movie, or a movie being reimagined as a game, or even a TV show based on a Dungeons & Dragons game. The critical parts of most stories in most mediums are the characters, plot, and world, which is why we see those three elements most regularly translated across mediums. But characters, plot, and world aren't enough when it comes to games, because games are interactive. When we really break them down to their core components and emotional experience, we've also got to account for what it feels like to play. The gameplay characterizes a game just as much as its character, plot, and world do. This is why I think film adaptations of so many video games regularly fail, like the infamous movie adaptations of Tomb Raider, World of Warcraft, and Assassin's Creed. Unless the video game already has a really good linear narrative that a linear medium like film can follow, it's doomed to fail. The TV adaptation of The Last of Us was successful, I think, because The Last of Us is a really narrative-driven game, and its narrative is good enough to stand alone without the supporting gameplay. But my point remains that so much of what makes games like Tomb Raider, World of Warcraft, and Assassin's Creed successful has to do with their gameplay, not their narratives. So transmedia retellings within a linear medium like film means these movies fall a bit flat. It's difficult to adapt most video games into other mediums. I guess, in a way, that's part of what's made playing LEGO Horizon Adventures so much fun. The gameplay really does feel like a lighter version of the actual gameplay of the mainline games. You still target weak spots on machines for increased damage. The element system is present and influences combat. There are environmental hazards you can exploit in a fight, same as the other games, and opportunities for stealth. When your health is low, you still run around frantically looking for healing berries to eat. Exploration and platforming return as core non-combat elements as well, presented in a way that is very evocative of the mainline games. Many of the original voice actors returned. I'm especially charmed by Ashley Birch's cartoony twist on Aloy's voice, reminiscent of her excellent performance as Tiny Tina in Borderlands. LEGO Horizon Adventures really does feel like Horizon in terms of its gameplay and voice acting. Of course, there are new features and mechanics present in LEGO Horizon Adventures that deviate from the original games and make it feel like a new thing all its own. Building Mother's Heart back up is a fun enough pit stop along the game's core loop, and the town serves as the hub world for players to explore. The undeniable LEGO game chaos that so many of us know and love is alive and well in this game. But my point is that LEGO Horizon Adventures is a successful transmedia retelling because it evokes the same general gameplay feeling as the mainline games, in addition to featuring elements of the overall world, the characters, and some plot points too. So, if Horizon Adventures is such a good example of successful game-to-game transmedia storytelling, why does something about it still feel so weird and off? Well, because the deeper I looked, the more I realized that it's not actually ticking off all the necessary boxes. Sure, it nailed the gameplay. It reimagines the plot, which is fine. It's got many of the same characters and world elements. But it's not actually just a Horizon game. Fundamentally, it is also a LEGO game. Horizon Adventures sits all snuggled up here in a weirdly off-putting intersection between the expanded LEGO universe and the expanded Horizon universe. It's got LEGO characters and LEGO world elements, from Ninjago to City. It also offers the player side quests that blend the two worlds, like the one where you need to put on the police officer skin and beat up cultists, which I am never going to complete on principle. And this stuff doesn't feel much like Horizon, because it isn't. First of all, Aloy is openly anti-authoritarian and disdains any kind of hierarchy. She hates it when people treat her like a hero or an authority.
I will not be worshipped. I'm not your anointed. I don't belong to you.
She doesn't care for kings or leaders.
Stinking up our lodge, pestering your betters.
You're hardly my better. Legan said I had to meet you to become a member.
That would be true if there were any chance of you becoming a member. But you're a savage. And no savage will rise in the ranks of the Hunter's Lodge while I am the Sun Hawk. Now be gone.
No. I was led to believe there are rules here. If they count for nothing, then even your position is meaningless. Quite a place you've got here. You can almost see the little people below the mesa.
So why is LEGO Horizon Adventures asking players to be cops and defeat cultists? To be the very thing the hero of this series is so critical of? Well, because it's a LEGO game, just as much as it's a Horizon game. In this instance, these two franchises are diametrically opposed to one another when it comes to the themes that build their respective worlds. Taking this even further, Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West, and the DLC Burning Shores all feature corrupt billionaires as main villains. In the first game, Ted Faro, evil billionaire extraordinaire, started a technology company that built military robots for mass destruction.
Machine, built to kill.
Like, this guy helped start wars so he could sell military weapons and death robots to both sides to turn a profit. And you know what? His insatiable greed not only drove him insane, but it resulted in the Pharaoh Plague, which caused the extinction of all life on Earth.
We're not talking fall of civilization, we're talking extinction.
He killed them all.
Dude literally killed everyone because of his greed, and he corrupted his own sense of humanity and self in the process.
Is that?
It's him.
The sequel, Horizon Forbidden West, has a whole cast of evil billionaires you encounter this time. The player finds out that these greedy, reckless cowards ruined the Earth and then decided to build a spaceship and piss off, leaving their mess on Earth for future generations to clean up.
Everyone will get sick and die.
In fact, at the end of Forbidden West, Aloy finds out that these billionaires thought it would be a good idea to merge their horrible minds into an artificial intelligence that is now hell-bent on destroying them and the rest of the Earth in the process. The final boss of Forbidden West is one of these billionaires, and the game's DLC, Burning Shores, features yet another. So far, both of the mainline Horizon games and the second game's DLC are overtly critical of late-stage capitalism and how it creates an environment conducive to the rise of corrupt billionaires.
All of this for one man.
It pays to have connections in the Sun King's court.
A major theme of this entire series is how the endless and thoughtless pursuit of profit over people and environment not only brings suffering to everyone around you, but also damages your own soul and sense of self.
Pharaoh, huh? I really hate that guy.
Understandable. He appears to have been pathologically narcissistic, impulsive, and unstable.
And none of this is present in LEGO Horizon Adventures, except for this one-sentence loading screen text, which feels like a very missable afterthought. The missing critique of capitalism feels intentional, considering the other major themes of the mainline games were successfully translated. Multiple times throughout the narrative, characters discuss the importance of valuing and preserving nature. Aloy still longs to understand her past and get to know her mother. She still feels frustrated and abandoned by Elizabeth. So why no critique of capitalism? And yeah, I know, these games are meant to be lighthearted, and we all hate being reminded of consumerism and late-stage capitalism. I get it, I do. Maybe you think LEGO Horizon Adventures was right to leave out the evil billionaire stuff, and while I think they could have adapted this theme to be family-friendly without that much effort, I can understand this point. But you know what I don't understand? Why LEGO Horizon Adventures features so much damn LEGO stuff. Honestly, LEGO Horizon Adventures feels like half New Horizon game and half LEGO advertisement. I miss the original LEGO Star Wars era, where you basically had no LEGOs in the game besides Star Wars ones. It's extremely immersion breaking to be playing a Horizon game with cops and amusement parks and ninjas just because LEGO wants to use Horizon Adventures as a method of advertising their own products. But I guess I should have expected this given that LEGO is a multi-billion-dollar company. You see, we've landed on the big failure that lies latent within Transmedia Storytelling, as Jenkins points out. Transmedia storytelling reflects the economics of media consolidation, or what industry observers call synergy. Modern media companies are horizontally integrated. That is, they hold interests across a range of what were once distinct media industries. A media conglomerate has an incentive to spread its brand or expand its franchises across as many different media platforms as possible, thus blurring the line between marketing and entertainment. The current configuration of the entertainment industry makes transmedia expansion an economic imperative, yet the most gifted transmedia artists also surf these marketplace pressures to create a more expansive and immersive story than would have been possible otherwise. Jenkins also points out that transmedia stories functionally offer multiple points of entry into a universe, expanding the potential market. Sure, you might not like comic books, but maybe you'll play a video game or watch a movie. Sure, you might not buy or play with Legos regularly, but maybe if you're enough of a Horizon fan, you'll buy Horizon Legos. And maybe there's a kid playing LEGO Horizon Adventures who doesn't care about the Horizon series at all, but they see that sick Ninjago set in the game and immediately know what they want for Christmas. So, in conclusion, Transmedia stories offer us expansive and continuously evolving worlds that never stop sparking our curiosity. But we also live in capitalism, which means that entertainment companies can, and often do, exploit this form of storytelling for maximum profit. It makes sense for them to do so. We are drawn to transmedia stories, and a lot of us want to engage with a new story that takes place in one of our favorite universes. Similarly, a lot of us are excited by the prospect of one of our favorite stories being adapted into a new medium. I think transmedia storytelling is wonderful and unique. I sincerely hope more creators consider working within a larger, expanded universe that spans multiple mediums, if that works for their worlds. When done correctly, each medium will offer audiences a delightfully nuanced, fresh perspective on the universe and characters that another medium couldn't give. Really, I think transmedia storytellers should actively lean into what makes each medium unique. For example, you can offer audiences an important and inherently different perspective on a universe within the medium of film that you simply couldn't give within written prose fiction. And notably, one medium isn't better than the other. They just approach the universe and the story differently, and say different things, and we are all the richer for that. All of that being said, if you're someone who hopes to create a transmedia world, it's important to remember the potential pitfalls here, because when classic stories get retold to death by people who want to make money, instead of someone who actually cares, and when beloved universes are used as mere backdrops for boring new fiction that don't give us any new perspectives or world building, well, it all just ends up feeling like one long advertisement. Because you're not building a world anymore. You're not exploring or deepening themes, nor are you introducing new characters or stories that say something new. And if you're not saying anything new, you're just reminding people that your universe exists and that there are products to buy. And nobody wants that. I think this is exactly what isn't sitting right with me about LEGO Horizon Adventures. I love this series so much. So I'm jacked when I hear about comic books or board games, just like I was stoked when LEGO Horizon Adventures was announced. But this game feels far more profit-driven than any of the other instances of transmedia storytelling for the Horizon universe. It doesn't introduce any new characters, any new themes, and it doesn't build on the world at all, except for shoving in LEGO products. In many ways, it just feels like an advertisement for LEGO. It's especially jarring because, as I've already discussed, the mainline Horizon games are so overtly critical of capitalism and authoritarianism. All in all, while I commend LEGO Horizon Adventures for its excellent transmedia storytelling in terms of its gameplay, seriously, this game is incredibly fun. I think I was right to feel like the experience was a little off. In many ways, LEGO Horizon Adventures is the very embodiment of what the Horizon universe portrays as evil: the profit-driven corruption of self.